Right, 5 o'clock, call the meeting to order. We acknowledge are gathered on Treaty 1 and Treaty 2 territories, and that Manitoba is located on the treaty territories and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Oyate, Deninsulan, Ojibwe, and Italiak. We acknowledge Manitoba is located on the homeland of the Red River Métis. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. Be it resolved that the minutes of the September 2nd, 2025 regular meeting of council and September 23rd, 2025 special meeting be approved as circulated and posted. Motion is made by Councillor Drohan.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved, the agenda be adopted as presented. Motion by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Are there any reports of committees?
I was at a watershed district, the minutes haven't come out, so I was at the committee meeting on the 14th. So I'll circulate the minutes or I'll send them on to the CAA.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, be resolved that council accepts the communications as presented. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. I'll call for the question, all in favor, and that's carried. Be resolved that the payroll accounts be approved for payment as follows. Direct deposit payroll of October 2nd, 2025, $18,262.83. Direct deposit payroll of October 16th, 2025, $19,459.16. Direct deposit payroll of September 4th, 2025, $21,233.47. Direct deposit payroll of September 18th, 2025, $16,990.19 for a total deposit of $75,945.65. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question then, all in favor? And that's carried. Be resolved that council approve the list of accounts for expenses for checks numbered 13034 to 13136, plus online banking for a total of $836,525.57. And be it further resolved that council approve the August 2025 council indemnities and expenses for a total of $3,825.82. Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the unaudited financials for the months of August and September 2025 be accepted as presented. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved that the August and September 2025 bank reconciliation for the general, reserves, and utility accounts be accepted as presented. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Whereas the Manitoba Assessment has delivered the 2025 listing of assessments to be added pursuant to sections 300, subpara 6 and 326 of the Municipal Act for additions and reductions to the 2025 tax rolls of the municipality. And whereas council has considered the supplementary taxes to be imposed in respect of each property listed, Therefore, be it resolved that council confirm the processing of the supplementary tax statements for a total of $112,263.17. Further resolved that the due date for supplementary taxes to be January 31st, 2026. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, moving on to bylaws. Be it resolved that bylaw 1741-07-2025, being a bylaw to amend the Rural Municipality of Cornwallis zoning bylaw number 1664-03-2016 as amended, be hereby read for the first time. Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved, bylaw 1743-08-2025, being a bylaw to govern the organization of the Rural Municipality of Cornwallis and the committees thereof, be hereby read a first time. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Whereas the applicant Sarah Romeler and landowner Sioux Valley Development Incorporated of the property legally described as Lot A, Plan 1849, Roll Number 76550, applied for approval of a conditional use order under Part 5, Table 5-2 of Zoning Bylaw Number 1664-03-2016 in order to allow for a healing and activity center in the Ag 80 zone. Therefore, be it resolved that after careful consideration of the application and any representations made for or against it, council approve said application. Motion by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Drohan. Call for the question. All in favor?
May I mention something before we vote on it? I think it's important that we make folks aware that on a situation like this where there is a conditional use requested and our bylaw doesn't allow for this particular thing unless it goes through council, it's really important that they hear and give us the opportunity to hear what the project is and ask questions about it. So I think it's important that people know that, but also that planning knows that they have to let us know what is going on. It's still tough to make a decision, right, until we get the information. So,
Thanks for that. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Whereas in a letter sent to the Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations and posted on social media, a former employee made allegations of harassment and workplace bullying while employed by the municipality. And whereas upon learning of the allegations, council hired an independent human resources consultant to investigate the allegations and provide advice on ensuring a safe and respectful workplace environment free from harassment. And whereas the consultant completed their investigation and reported to council, concluding that their investigation found no evidence to support or validate the allegations of harassment and workplace bullying while the person was employed by the municipality. And whereas a copy of the report has been provided to the former employee and the Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations, therefore be it resolved that the municipality authorizes the interim chief administration officer to seek independent legal advice concerning a legal action for defamation as a result of making of the allegations. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved that the Chater wastewater rate study Public Utilities Board application be withdrawn for now. Motion by Councillor Maxwell,
I'll second.
seconded by Councillor Drohan. I know there's been discussion with the owner of the utility, and there's still negotiations going back and forth in regards to that.
The engineer.
Call for the question, all in favor? And it's carried. Whereas Stantec Contract Administrator advised DFA Site Number 9 is complete and provided the substantial performance certificate, the completed deficiency report, and the total completion certificate, and whereas Stantec has reviewed the contractor's invoice and recommended that the municipality make payment in full. Therefore, be it resolved that council confirm payment recovered from DFA 2022 program advance to the contractor for progress estimate number 2 of $529,614 and 32, and holdback of $55,806 and 47. Motion by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Whereas Stantec Consulting Limited reviewed and provided a recommendation for 7 open bid submissions from MERX for the 2022 Spring Flood Site 2 bridge replacement on Little Souris River, therefore be it resolved that council award the contract to Russell Ready Mix as the least cost compliant bid of $1,747,934.69 plus GST. Motion by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for the question, all in favor? That's carried. Be it resolved that the emergency plan tabletop or mock disaster exercise with the municipal emergency coordinator be scheduled for Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. Motion by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Drohan. Who's all required to be there for that?
So all of council, I'll invite Public Works, Office, Police, maybe the fire, if they'd come.
Do we have any idea what the what type of scenario they're going to be presenting?
I don't know specifically, no.
Okay.
But we have to do these tabletops, and I do think it's a really good exercise to go through, and I would certainly recommend all of council attend.
Yeah, so free up your calendars if you guys can, and we'll go to that. All right, call for the,
Utility guy too?
yes.
So the 19th, is it all May? Or how long will it be?
1.5. The backup should say how long. 1 to 1.5 hours.
Call for the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved that council members and the CAO and or designate be hereby authorized to attend the AMM Fall Convention to be held in Winnipeg on November 25th to the 27th, 2025. Further resolved that all applicable registration and expenses be authorized in accordance with the council remuneration bylaw. Motion by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Drohan. Call for the question, all in favor, and that's carried.
I missed that last one, looking that up. Who moved and seconded that?
The tabletop exercise?
Tabletop.
It was,
Do we remember?
it was, yeah, it was Councillor Drohan and Brown, I thought.
And the vote was unanimous? Yep.
Yes. Be it resolved that the municipality enters into an agreement with Grant Match Corp. For the proactive management of a government funding application process. And further resolved that the chief administration officer be hereby authorized to sign said agreement on behalf of the municipality. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. I just want to say on that, I think we talked about this with Kerry, and he was saying that this is a free service and they only take a portion of what they are successful in getting. Yeah. So it's not going to cost us anything if we don't get any grants, but they'll
But if
take a
we-
small nominal.
But if we get awarded, we better make sure we do it, because then they do charge.
Yeah.
Because they take 10%,
Mhm.
their percentage cut off the cost.
Call for the question, all in favor, and that's carried. Be resolved that the municipality enters into a contribution agreement with Manitoba Municipal and Northern Relations for the from the ground up safety health communities for all program grant funding of $27,500 for the zoning bylaw update project. And further resolved that the chief administration officer and or the acting reeve be hereby authorized to sign said agreement on behalf of the municipality. Motion by Councillor Drohan, seconded by Councillor Brown. Call for question, all in favor? And that's carried. Whereas the Playground Ad Hoc Committee reviewed 3 bids submitted for the Spruce Woods request for proposal to design, procure, and install playground equipment and fall zone material from Blue Imp or Art of Play Playgrounds and Park and Play Design. Therefore, be it resolved that per the recommendation of the committee, council accept proposals from Blue Imp for $119,943.97 plus GST. Motion by Councillor Drohan, second by Councillor Brown. Any discussion on this item?
Well, you were kind of behind it too, I guess.
Yeah, this is something that we all campaigned on.
We want the playground and
For that playground in Spruce Woods, and I'm glad to see that it's finally coming to fruition. And the kids out there will have a nice playground structure, and should probably be complete by next summer.
yeah, it'd be a nice addition for the new families that are probably going to Shadow as well, and maybe some new development, I'm sure, around that area as well.
Exactly.
For new families.
Call for the question, all in favor? And that's carried.
And we tried twice unsuccessfully for a grant
Well, that's true.
towards that.
Yeah, that's true. Be resolved that council hereby confirm acting reeve Terry Ross appointed as the Cornwallis representative on the Brandon Salutes Committee.
Make the motion.
Motion by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Drohan. Call for the question, all in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved that the regular council meeting in February be rescheduled from Tuesday, February 17th, 2026 to Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. Motion by Councillor Maxwell, by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Maxwell. This is just to allow for winter vacation. Call for the question, all in favor, and that's carried.
For 2 members.
Be it resolved that the purchase of 2 wreaths for the Remembrance Day services November 11th be approved, and further that 2 council members attend the ceremonies to lay the wreaths on behalf of the RN of Cornwallis. Motion by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Maxwell. Call for the question, all in favor? And that's carried. There's no in camera. Any inquiries? Leadership motion,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn, and seconded by Councilman Maxwell. Call for the question. All in favor? We are adjourned.